welcome back. Listen, today is a little bit of a vulnerability share, as they call it. I have a story for you from the driver's seat. Welcome to Empowered Endeavors, where we turn clarity into momentum and purpose into power. I am Shaunna Lee, a speaker, strategist, and host of this space where real stories meet real growth. If you have reached success, but you still feel something calling you deeper, welcome home. Each week we dive into the truth behind the pivot, the podcast, or the plot twist, and help you create the next chapter that you actually want to live. So let's get into it. Today's episode is personal and on the surface may not feel like it is tied to podcasting, but I promise you we'll get there. Honestly, it snuck up on me while I was driving, and I have found that time and time again, a lot of my analogies and my visualizations that I create for myself are all around being in the car, which I thought was interesting. And what started out for me as a deep-seated frustration became one of my greatest spaces for transformation. So I'm going to take you through the story, the shift, and then we'll get to the lesson. But here's the thing. So much of my early driving time, especially as a new parent, was around being in a hurry and resentful. I often felt like I was the only one. I often felt like I was the only one housing and holding the responsibility for getting all of these people where they needed to be. And I felt rushed. I felt overstretched being the one to maintain a full-time job and also, rush them to the doctor's office and to their practices and to the games and all of the places that all of the children need to be. And I don't just have one child, so they have to be all in the different places. So much of that responsibility felt like I alone as the mom was holding on to that. And there often was this tension between being the one who needs to get everyone where they need to be versus also feeling like no one's really helping me get where I need to be. And so being able to kind of sit with that frustration and also recognize that so much of my time in the car is exactly what I asked for. I have a story for you. Actually, I have several stories for you today, but here's the first one. I spent so long in corporate America being stressed out and rushed to be at the classroom parties, to be on the field trips, to be at work, to get them to school on time, and to do all of the time. So much of my life was rushing in the car. And all I wanted for years and years was to be the one picking up my kids after school. I, first of all, had romanticized this experience and thought I was missing out on this opportunity to connect with my children. And in some ways, that was true. In many ways, that was not true. There were so many days where I found myself sitting in the school pickup line because in some ways I do cater to my children much more than is necessary. And I go drive through this maze of cars to be picking them up where they do very little driving. Probably a little bit of mom guilt, probably because I would have loved to have that happen for me when I was young. Regardless, I found myself at one point sitting in this school pickup line where I literally get to the school 20 to 30 minutes before they get out of school. And I thought, is this what I wanted, to spend so much of my time just waiting to pick them up? Which, by the way, meant my daughter would get in the car. She's in the very frustrating phase of life herself. And so everything I say is wrong. Everything I say is frustrating and makes her mad. And so then we spend most of the 5-minute car ride home in utter silence. And I'm like, why did I do this? Because I wanted to. Be careful what you ask for, people, because you might just get it. Here's the thing. I do love being available for my children in the ways that are important to me. And that includes being in the after school pickup line. However, it also means being the one to drive them to all the places they need to be. And what I realized was This moment of frustration and resentment, all this time in the car, really was an opportunity for me to practice patience. And it started as a place to practice patience, which was a little bit of a paradox because I so love freedom and speed and driving fast. And I was also being called to slow down. And I needed to slow down in order to reclaim my freedom and the momentum to go faster, which is counterintuitive and does not make any sense at all. But in those moments where I have been called to slow down or to rest or to pause, really were the moments where I was catapulted into more freedom and actually moving faster. However, this opportunity to practice patience presented itself to me over and over and over again until I got a little better at it. And here's what it looked like. I would get frustrated with people driving slow in front of me. I like to drive fast. Doesn't matter if I'm behind schedule or not. I want to drive as fast as possible to get there as fast as possible. Why? Because I think it's fun to drive fast. I do. I think it's boring to drive slow. And while I have tried to claim that I have slowed down in my old age, I really have not. I enjoy speed. I enjoy driving fast. I think cars are more fun when you're driving them fast. What can I say? And I will say that driving has been an opportunity for me to practice patience over and over again because so many of you do not like to drive fast that I am required to become more patient. And so when someone cuts me off in traffic or makes a choice that I have judged as wrong, I was given the opportunity to look at it a different way. And so I started telling myself a different story about the drivers that I was encountering on the road. So instead of, you're an asshole, you're inconsiderate, what I would tell myself is, wow, you must be in a hurry today. Or maybe you've got your little old grandma holding a fish bowl with an open lid and you don't want the fish water to get all over your little grandma. Like, this is a really silly story that I legit told myself about slow drivers, that maybe they were driving their little grandma around and they didn't want her to get wet from the fish bowl. You know what? It is so ridiculous and so over the top, but it worked. And I became more patient and I would giggle or I would laugh at this image because it was so absurd. And then I would bring me back to the moment of, it's really not that important. And it's okay to go slow. And it's okay that people have different priorities on the road. And this is all fine and well. And for the most part, I don't yell at people as much as I used to. I still have moments of road rage, but here's where I was still being triggered. And it was happening every day. And that is with people backing into the parking spots in a parking lot. I don't understand why everyone on the planet has decided that this is the only way we will park in a parking lot, but I have been gifted the opportunity to watch it happen very slowly in front of me every single fucking day. And it was really pissing me off. And I was like, this is very interesting. Why, again, with the curiosity, why is this making me so angry that this person is choosing to back in? They're entitled to park however the hell they want to park. But it really was this story I was telling myself about them being inconsiderate, that they were taking up too much space, or that they were trying to control the pace of parking in that parking lot, that their time was worth more than my time, that they had a lack of urgency. This is all bullshit storytelling that was going on. And what I realized was it was because I was not allowing myself to do the same thing. In what way was I not taking up the space that I have every right to take up? In what way am I allowing other people to control the narrative? How am I not seeing my worth and that my time is worth money, or my time is worth you respecting, and that person is not lacking any sense of urgency? Here's the reframe. And this is what I started doing. Wow, look at them unapologetically taking up space. I am learning to do that too. And I'll tell you, the very first time I said this was in the high school parking lot. Listen, if you want to practice patience, go try to park or drive through the high school parking lot where the students park. Ample opportunity to practice some patience. But there was a young girl backing into her parking spot, and I thought, okay, well, here's my chance. I'm going to reframe this. And I said, wow, look at her unapologetically taking up space. In that moment, here's the magic that happened. I was no longer pissed off at her. I was proud of her. A young girl taking up space. Oh, hold on a second. I was like, well, this I can get behind. I am here for the girl power movements. Why could it not apply to this parking spot? And so then the other reframes that I have tried are I get to take my time and so do they. Because again, it's about giving myself permission to do what this person is doing. And their pause is not my pressure. It is safe for me to slow down too. Because here's what I've learned a lot most recently in these moments of pause, quiet, rest. That's when the reflection happens and allows me to become clear. It's where the momentum actually sparks off from. So it is about being safe to slow down. And in all the ways that I can remind myself that it's slow and it's okay, that it's safe to pause, it's safe to rest. Not only is it safe, but it's crucial for me to rest. It changes the whole narrative. And as we make that shift, then we are able to transform where we're going. So here's the lesson. The lesson that came from this triggering backing into parking spots moment where so much of my life has been driving and frustrated and resenting the responsibility that came from driving. And yet I loved the freedom and the speed that came from driving. Here's the lesson. It's not about traffic. It's never about traffic. It's about the transformation of that moment. It's about what that ordinary place holds for you and the wisdom that is there. There is the sacred wisdom that comes from patience, that comes from knowing your worth, that comes from truly stepping up to the plate to lead. So if we were to use the car analogy, it is time for you and me to get behind the wheel and actually drive the car. So I have another little story for you before I get to how this even remotely has anything to do with podcasting. So I have this negative Nancy storyteller in my mind, just like everyone else does. And I've worked through the years to kind of quiet her down. What I realized recently, though, was she wasn't ever going away. It was still there. It was like this nagging nuisance, and I was doing my best to ignore it. But what I really needed to do was stop and look at her and listen. So I named her. She is Scarcity Sharon because, listen, half the time she's worried about what's missing or what's wrong or what do we need to fix. And my God, she has a lot to say. So I named her and I said, listen, okay, Scarcity Sharon is your name. And every day I spend a few minutes with her at the beginning of the day. And I say, okay, Sharon, what do you have to say to me? What are your thoughts? And maybe it's what are your thoughts on this situation or where we're going today? But it's always before we set out on our journey today, we're going on an adventure, we're getting in the car. Before we do that, what are your thoughts? What do you have to say? What are you thinking? What are you feeling? And boy, howdy, some days she has a lot to say. And then other days she's, after about a week of doing this, there have been days where she's like, yeah, I'm good. I don't really have anything to say. That's only happened like once or twice. But there has been such a beautiful transformation that has happened by just giving her the time and space and listening to her. So I say, okay, what are you thinking? Thank you so much for sharing. And now it is my turn to get behind the wheel of this car and drive us where we are going. You are now the passenger princess, and I have delegated her to sitting in the passenger seat. Here are some snacks for the road. I would like you to enjoy the view and trust that I've got us. I'm going to get us where we need to go safely. You are good. You don't have to worry. You don't have to tell me which way to turn. You just have to enjoy the ride. And I've got it. I'm behind the wheel. I am in the driver's seat. This was such a powerful visualization for me to recognize my power in how the fuck my life goes, where I'm going from here, how I'm building a business, what I get to sell next, what I get to talk about on the podcast, that I am in charge. That is me showing up, using my voice, and being the leader I am called to be. And it all started with me being willing to listen. And so I would encourage you, as my listeners, to ask yourself, what if your transformation is already in progress? And what if it's hiding in those moments that you resent the most? Where are you being triggered? Where are you letting resentment build up? And what is that really about? And now the question you're asking yourself is, how the hell does this tie to podcasting? Here's the thing. In these moments of triggers and healing and growth and transformation, all of this has come as a result of podcasting. It has been such a healing opportunity for me to be the host of this show, for me to host guests on my show, and for me to be a guest on other shows. It's through those conversations where we are sharing deep, private stories, and we're being vulnerable, and we are truly connecting with other human beings simply by telling our story. And there is such healing that comes from podcasting, but in a fun, easy way. Now, I'll tell you, a lot of the healing journey is a little grueling. Like if you've done any amount of therapy, you know, like there's work. It takes work to show up and look at your shit. But when you get to heal as a result of your podcasting experience, it gets to be a more fun, lighthearted, easy way of getting there. You're doing it together. You're not alone. And podcasting gives you the opportunity to share your voice and take the lead in the way that you need to. And podcasting is an excellent opportunity for you to practice. And through that practice, you become more confident and you transform into this person that your soul is actually calling you to be, that you already are, but you're not allowing yourself to be. So if podcasting is even remotely interesting to you, or you have toyed around with the idea, then stick around because we have more to talk about in future episodes. And what I will tell you is storytelling through podcasting is where your transformation is hiding. It is where you have the ability to grow and evolve into this person that you really want to be. So I am inviting you guys to reflect on that question. Where is that space that your healing is hiding in plain sight? And it's where you're being triggered. It is where you are frustrated, and those moments where resentment is building, that is usually the first clue. So for you guys who are like, okay, yes, I'm sold. I'm ready to start the podcast. I don't know what the fuck to do first. I would invite you to book a strategy session with me. You can join PodLaunch, but until then, and also after then, you can book a strategy session with me. It is a little bit longer than an hour. It's a 75-minute session where we really dive into your ideas and we brainstorm and we come up with your content strategy for the show. And I give you a plan to work with. It gives you just enough to go run with it and start your podcast all on your own. Or you can choose to join PodLaunch from there. Is a good way to figure out if it's right for you or not. And if the idea you have for a podcast has any weight. So if you want someone else to weigh in and provide some input, I would be happy to do that with you. But here's what I can tell you without even knowing your idea for a podcast. I know that your story matters and I know that people need to hear it. So let's do it. Let's build something extraordinary, but let's do it together. I cannot wait to hear from you guys. I cannot wait to read your messages. So make sure to connect with me on LinkedIn and book your strategy session. Let's talk soon. Until next week.